Hello, everybody. Welcome to this year's breakdown of the new First LEGO League 2022-2023 season, Supercharged. So earlier today, the game released on YouTube. We had our release of our project, the robot game, and as well as just kind of the supporting documentation to go for this season. So this video is kind of going to go over the breakdown of kind of the actual robot game itself, some early strategy from what teams have been seeing, and some ideas for ways to do things, just that people have thrown out there. So if we pull up our map of the field here, we can see that there's 15 missions, and each of these is themed to kind of go along with the theme of Supercharge. So everything kind of has to do with power this year. And one of the big changes you may see is there's 2 launch areas. So at the table, there is a huge change for this year. So not only do you have 2 launch areas where you can launch your robot from, you also have 4 technicians at the table. So that is 2 more than we had the last few years where you could only have 2 at the table, which is very nice because it gets more students involved at the table and engaged in the competition. So another big thing that also has been changed is the way that your attachment stuff are all measured before the match. So all of your hardware for your robot and your attachments and everything must fit within both of the launch areas. So you can split it up between the 2 launch areas. However, you get bonus points. I believe it's a 20-point bonus if you have it to fit within the right area over on the right, which is kind of colored blue slightly. There's a picture on screen of it. So that right launch area is the bonus, and it has to be under 12 inches, so the same rules there. It's a fairly good change, I think, to do this. It makes attachments even smaller and encourages teams to develop attachments that are even more compact, and it also helps rookie teams because they can get that 20-point bonus just for having a small robot that fits in that space. So as far as the missions go, there's actually a really interesting layout. And on screen I have a picture. There is multiple paths that the robot can take. So there's like 3 main paths. The first of which is straight across the field between the 2 launch areas. And there's nothing blocking it. There looks to be what's about a 1-foot gap between the 2 mission models, which would be the hydroelectric dam, the power plant, and the toy factory. So if you kind of like drew vertical lines, it would be about a foot of space. So you can fit a robot through there quite easily. And then there's this curved path that kind of goes up by the oil platform, across by the big orange hand, and then over between the toy factory and the windmill and television set, back over to the launch area. And then there's this other one that kind of runs between these 2 paths, which is right in the center of the table. So this is a great way if you want to navigate from one side of the field over here, say by number 10, to over by, let's say, 5. You don't have to go all the way around. You can just go right through the middle of the field, which makes it much easier for navigation. So another thing is kind of some of the groupings of missions, but we'll talk about those later after we go over each of these missions and kind of break down what they are and what it's looking like this season is going to shape up to be. So the first mission is exactly the same as it was last year. You have to deliver an innovation project model to the center circle, and this is 10 points. The project model in the game video and in the game rulebook, it's just made out of 4 white 2x4s, but it can be anything you want, just as long as it is made out of 2 pieces, and it has to be at least as long as a 2x4. So it can be fairly small. It doesn't say it has to be touching, so you could just have the innovation model on top of the robot and have it park there. Or you could do a bunch of different things with that. So it doesn't say touching the mat, it just says completely in. So that is one thing to take note of. There's a lot of rules that are worded like that this year. Moving on to mission 2, we have the oil platform. And so this is interesting. It kind of reminds me a mix between the weight machine from the Into Orbit season, which was actually my personal last season in First LEGO League. but it's not as much friction. It looks like it's fairly easy to lift. But the thing is, you have to lift it 3 times and let it go down 3 times in order to fully load the truck. And that's actually not too difficult. It shouldn't be too hard to do, just with either an arm or a vertical rack and pinion system. And that's 5 points each for each fuel that you add to the truck. But then if you're able to take that truck once it has at least 1 fuel inside of it, and if you take it and you deliver it over to the oil station or the fueling station on the other side of the field in between the electric car and the windmill, you'll actually receive a 10-point bonus. So that's actually something that's kind of interesting, because you do have to transport the truck quite a ways to actually score that bonus. So it'll be interesting to see how teams strategize to solve that mission. For energy storage, it's very, very easy. You just have to take 3 of these energy units that you collect from around the field and drop them into the bin, and you get 10 points for each one. And then there is also an energy unit down underneath the storage bin that's in a little tray. And if you remove that, it's 5 points. Now, there's no rule here in the rulebook that says that energy unit and that tray have to stay over there. It looks like, unless there's an update that happens later on, you could take that entire tray back to base with you and just take the energy unit out, and then it's removed from the tray. And it's actually interesting because, unlike previous years, there's only 1 mission model that starts at home, and that's the toy dinosaur, which we'll talk about later. But those energy units you have to collect from other sources, so it's not like free points, basically. So you'd have to collect it from either the power plant or the windmill, or that are sitting over there on the solar farm. And speaking of the solar farm, let's move on to Mission 4. And for Mission 4, you have to remove each of these little energy units from their starting circles. And for each one you remove, it's 5 points. So if you remove all 3, it's 15 points. And then you get a 5-point bonus if you remove all 3. So it's 20 points if you remove all 3 energy units. And you could then use those to score into the energy storage unit or for another mission. Moving on to Smart Grid. This is the cooperative mission for this year. And this one's actually really interesting, and kind of an interesting build because of just how cool it is. I mean, we haven't really seen something like this before, where the shared mission model is right next to each other. I think the last time that happened was with the bridge in Cargo Connect, or not Cargo Connect, that was City Shaper, or the Animal Switch turntable in Animal Allies. So those are the last 2 that come to my mind where we had a shared mission model. That was right where it's like right there next to each other. And so to score points for this mission, all you have to do is raise the orange hand. You get 20 points. However, if the other team raises their hand, and it kind of looks like they're giving each other a high five, you get a 10-point bonus. And the reason they actually give you how to build the robot attachment in the program for this mission, even though that's kind of against the spirit of FLL, is because it gives a bonus to the other team. So they want everybody to have the opportunity to at least do this mission. If anything else, they can at least do this mission. Then moving down to the hybrid car, you have to lift this little red lever, and you have to load the car. However, it looks like this could be slightly tricky, as if you don't load it perfectly, or maybe at the right speed, it looks like it could actually dump the energy unit to the side. Or actually the hybrid unit. But even if you miss, it's still 10 points. However, loading the car, you get a 10-point bonus for having the hybrid unit inside the car, which is always nice to have that little bit of bonus points. For the wind turbine, this is also kind of like the oil factory, or the oil refinery, I should say, and that you have to repeatedly do an action to unload it. So to score points for the wind turbine, you have to push this red lever in and then let it go back out, and that will dump one of these energy units onto the field. And these energy units could then be collected later and used for other missions, such as scoring into the storage bin. But you can do up to 3 of them, and for each one you remove, it's 10 points. So if you completely remove all 3 of them, it's 30 points total. Moving on to watching television, it's also quite similar. And you have to push the people watching TV in their couch closer to the mission model, and it will raise the TV all the way up. And the interesting about that is that behind there is a little energy unit, and when you push the TV up, it'll load back into this little holder. However, if you push it too hard, the energy unit will go and launch all the way backwards over the hopper, and you won't score an extra 10-point bonus. So that is 20 points there. And that's on the far right of the field. So that's a very, very easy mission for teams to accomplish, as they just have to drive forward and drive backwards at the very least. Mission 9 is the dinosaur toy. And this is really, really interesting, and it's something that comes because we have this new split field with the left and right launch areas. So what you can do is if you take the dinosaur toy and you transport it all the way over to the other side of the field, it's 10 points. But then if you close the lid, it's another 10 points. And then if you put an energy unit, you get a 10-point bonus. But if you put the rechargeable battery from right next to the toy factory, you get a 20-point bonus. Now, there is no rule here that says that you can't, by hand, pass the dinosaur over, although I am suspecting there will be a challenge update within the coming weeks addressing that, as it seems like that's too easy just to pass it between the 2 technicians, or the 4 technicians now, from one side to the other. Moving on to our power plant. This is also another way to get those precious energy units that you can score. And if you take this red lever and you push it down, it unloads the front energy unit. And then if you lift up on this upper red bar, it releases the 2 side energy units. And because the way these roll, it looks like they could actually roll just into each launch area from either side. But we'll have to see when we get the field in person actually what ends up happening to those. And teams might actually have to have a little collector there to pick them up. The hydroelectric dam is mission 11. So we have this little red lever that you have to lift and release the water source down into the turbine. And when you release it into the turbine, it's going to kick an energy unit out from the bottom of the dam. And if you do that, it's 20 points total. So that's a very, very simple way to score 20 points. It's very easy to do with just a simple arm. And attached to this mission is mission 12, the water reservoir. So this kind of reminds me of hydrodynamics, where we had these water rain pieces that we had to move around the field. However, the water reservoir has 3 water sources that are sitting on the field when the match begins. And if you collect those and then put them inside of this reservoir area, you get 5 points for each one that is inside the reservoir. However, if you place a water unit up on a single hook, you get a 10-point bonus. It doesn't say in the rule book that you can put one on each hook and that you'll get 20 points. But I'm expecting to see an update on that also in the near future. But as of right now, I think the maximum amount of points you could score on this would actually be 20 points. 1 hooked, and then 2 sitting in the reservoir. Mission 13 is the Power to X. So this is much like those missions that we've had the past few years, where you just have to deliver a box or a building to a circle. So if you deliver these little energy units to this hydrogen plant in the center of the field, you get 5 points for each one that's in the center. But they have to be completely inside, and you can only have a maximum of 3, just like the storage unit. However, if you move them there in the middle of the match, you've kind of blocked your access through that center gap within the field. So teams are going to have to take that into account and see, is it worth it to possibly block access to half the field through that path to do it early on in the run? And so that can score a maximum of 15 points. The toy factory, once again, requires energy units. So for each energy unit that you place into the red hopper, even if it's like stuck on it or it's got passed through, you get 5 points. And you can, once again, a maximum of 3. And if you release the mini dinosaur by doing so, you get a 10-point bonus. So a maximum of 25 points for the Toy Factory mission. Quite simple once you have the energy units collected. That's the tricky part. And then for mission 15, we have the rechargeable battery. So that battery could be collected, and that's what can be put into the dinosaur to store or to score an extra, I think it's 10-point bonus over just putting a regular energy unit. But if you put an energy unit inside this rechargeable battery area, you get 5 points for each one that is completely inside. So once again, you have limited resources for your energy unit, and you have to decide where you would like to use those energy units to score the most points. And so mission 15, the rechargeable battery, is the last mission on the list. But in addition to all the missions, you can also score points by being precise with precision tokens. So instead of penalties like in earlier seasons, precision tokens now are left on the field and removed every time you interrupt the robot. So for this year, if you leave all 6, it's a 50-point bonus. If you leave 5, it's still a 50-point bonus. So you can have 1 robot interruption with no penalty. If you leave 4 precision tokens, it's 35 points. 3 tokens is 25 points. 2 tokens is 15 points. And 1 token is 10 points. So, and if you have 0 tokens, it's 0 points. So it does incentivize teams to be more accurate and to only interrupt the robot once or never, as you do get that 50-point bonus, which, because of how few points there are in this game, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is very important, as teams are going to be much closer when the points were more spread out in years prior, such as last year with Cargo Connect, or even back as far as Trash Trek, where you could score over 1,000 points. So that's the end of the scoring points portion of this video. So now we're going to kind of talk about some of the game strategy. So this year, it's looking like the approximate max amount of points. I tried doing the math on it. I think it's 400 points. However, if you get the other hand from the other team, it's 410 points. We'll have to look at some more stuff when more information comes out about how you can score and small rulings in the Q&A and stuff. But it's about 400 points, basically, which is almost half of last year, which I believe the maximum run was 710 points. So with that smaller amount of points, teams are going to be a lot closer. So having those extra bonus points from those precision tokens is going to be very, very, very important to allow teams to be ranked higher. So now let's kind of talk about some of the game strategy in itself. So up on the screen, I'm going to have some pictures. And these are kind of just from my observations from day one of kind of what I would plan out to do if I was doing a max run. So the first thing I'd go out and do is I would complete the television, the windmill, the electric car, and I would bring the battery back. I put that in the dinosaur. Then I have the robot drive out, unload the power units from the factory, and then drive across to the center of the field, raise the hand, and then back up, collect the water units on the one side of the reservoir, drive around, collect the other water unit, as well as lifting the arm on the hydroelectric dam to release the energy unit at the bottom. And from there, I would either, I would most likely drive back to the left side of the field, so the red launch area. From there, I would send the robot out and lift the oil refinery to fill the truck 3 times. So I'd lift that bar 3 times. Turn, go over, deposit the 3 energy units we received from the turbine into the storage unit. As while we do that, pull out the little tray that has the other energy unit in it. Then turn and collect the 3 energy units that are on the mat right next to the storage unit in the solar panel area. And from there, I would then drive back once again to the left launch area, which is red. From there, I would send the robot out holding the oil truck. And on its way, I would probably stop it and drop off the water and maybe take the oil truck over. From there, I would have our other team members on the blue side, the right side, grab the robot, bring it back to base, and then send it out for the final run, where it drops the remaining energy units into the toy factory and into the rechargeable battery area before driving over and parking over the center circle with the innovation project model and the remaining power cells on the robot in the center of the field to score the points and park there. I believe all this is very, very, very doable by a lot of teams, and I believe we're actually going to see a lot more maxed out runs this year because of actually how simple the missions seem to be compared to years past. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this season shapes up over the next few months. It's going to be a very, very competitive year, I believe. There's going to be a lot of solid projects out there. There's going to be a lot of solid robots. And it's going to come down to the little tiny things, the accuracy, having consistent matches, and at some point having, most likely, if there's a tie, having that second highest score, so you can have that tiebreaker win. So that's kind of my early breakdown of this game. Let me know what you think in the comments of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. And once again, my name is Joseph. I'm the captain of 18457 GatorBytes. I hope you enjoyed this video. And subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see more FLL related content, First Tech Challenge related content, and robotics content in general. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.